What's up? We are back another week, another session, Sisters in Therapy podcast. And y'all know that we like to start with some topics all related to mental health. And we always start with definitions. So this week is no different. Okay.
Here we go.
So this title of this session is called codependency. And codependency is defined as a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person takes on the role of giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. But this is not specific to just romantic relationships. This could be parent-child, child-parent, friendships, co-workers, all types of things.
Absolutely.
This is an interesting topic to me because there is actually like not a universal set of like diagnostic criteria for this specific thing. Like there's no way to kind of say, oh, this person, it's not a disorder. It's like a characteristic trait or something.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can lead to, because even when I was doing research on codependency, a lot of things that popped up was drug use. Was popping up for codependency. Like the first thing that popped up on Google when I was researching was addiction. Here's the helpline for addiction. That's the word I was looking for.
I think because initially codependency started out as almost like a branch off from addiction treatment.
Gotcha.
So they had Al-Anon, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. And so what they found, I believe, is that once people start going to treatment, there's always people in their lives who enabling them and endlessly helping them. And so somebody who worked with the addiction population coined the term codependency.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, where in the world did you get your definition from? Because that definitely sounds like a therapist wrote that.
So all of our definitions in our psychological field also have like a different definition from a different field.
For sure.
So when I look for definitions of anything, I always put like human behavior type definitions.
Okay.
Because it makes more sense that way in our field.
Okay, got it. So the one that I found was excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner.
Okay.
Typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction.
Same thing.
So that's the one that I found, yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with you when you were saying like this is a topic that we really do need to talk about because it's so expansive. And I think even given how social media is working now, I think people are putting a label to something. I don't think people understand like how it impacts like their day-to-day possibly. So I am curious, from the clients that you all see, what are some patterns or behaviors you notice in your clients? Any codependent tendencies?
I noticed just first off like stigma around.
I never thought about that.
The word codependent, like nobody wants to say, because they think about it in the traditional sense of I'm codependent on my partner, or we need each other, or we can't function without each other. But that's not necessarily the case. So nobody wants to be a person who's codependent. And also a lot of people who have a lot of helping tendencies don't want to look at some of their behavior as codependent behavior because they're just like, I'm just a nice person.
Yeah. What about you, Sadie?
I actually don't use the term codependency, but what I use instead with my clients is self-betrayal, which is really somewhat of the same thing. Because some of the signs I see, because obviously with my couples, is them feeling responsible for their partner's feelings and choices, which leads to them actually not expressing their feelings or their needs. So to me, you're denying your own needs. This is self-betrayal. So I'm most of the work or the language I use is honoring yourself and self-betrayal, but it is codependency. I just don't call it that.
Okay.
For some reason.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, like, what got you to that point of, like,
I don't
was
know.
it something about the term where you're like, that doesn't apply? Or is it how you want to educate them on what it means for whatever their situation is?
Maybe I'm codependent. And maybe that's why I wasn't using it. I don't know, because some of this stuff, I'm like, this is black women. Black women. Black women.
That goes to the culture piece of how it plays a role in it. And I think that's the only reason why I really started using the word codependent is because the more I started learning about it, the more and more I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
I was reading some of this stuff.
help a lot.
Setting boundaries. Oops.
Yikes.
But no, I just never used the term. I try to make stuff about people to put the responsibility on them. And so the honoring yourself and like self-betrayal, like this is you doing this to you.
Okay.
And I think that I think we were talking about this, Takesha, yesterday, like this is people, there are so many myths about codependency. I think people have the wrong idea about it.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't I didn't want to introduce the language when I wasn't really like feeling like breaking it down to say, okay, you got that wrong or whatever. So I just use honoring yourself or self-betrayal.
I see. I like that. You mentioned stigma.
Okay.
And I never thought about using that term when it comes to that, because sometimes when you say, okay, is that behavior codependent? People immediately freak out, right? Because I think it's the idea that they don't have any type of independence. It can be crippling for some people, but like people are generally living their day to day, but there are signs or ways that it can inhibit personal growth. And in some way it prevents having a secure attachment.
Oh, facts.
Absolutely.
To people around you, not just in a romantic sense, but familial and friendship wise.
And work.
But they're not thinking about it as far as how it impedes their growth or their relationships.
Yeah.
Because usually these folks are super high functioning because they have all of this time and effort and energy to give all of these things to all of these people. Yes. And so they're like, I'm a good person. How do you call me codependent when I must have it together because I'm able to give all of these things to all of these people?
Okay. And you come back to what, when we talk, you come back to ego. What you always say, is that ego? Like you think you can really fix these people's lives? You think that you have the solutions for these people's lives? Is that ego or are you trying to be a helper?
They don't really love when I say that.
I don't love when you say that.
But I'm like, but is it care? Is it control? Like,
yeah, it's a fine line, I think.
Do we think we're God? Like, we don't actually have the kind of power that we think we have.
Yes.
And I'm glad y'all brought up this point because I saw something yesterday on TikTok. I don't remember the full context, but I don't know if you all experience this with clients, but like a lot of my clients will say, like, I just have a really big heart and I try to understand people. And I'm like, I understand that, but do people, the same graces that you're extending to people, are they also extending you that same grace, right?
But do you understand you? Do you understand your heart?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. No. But I think even that's still an element of codependency, right? Like the people pleasing.
And when you talk about signs that you see, I feel like that's one of the telltale signs is this just overemphasis on, I just need to be a nice person, or they just need me, or just assuming that you have all these roles and responsibilities and you kind of don't know where yours begin and another person's starts.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So should we give a little bit of a list of the signs of codependency?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first one, it's difficulty setting boundaries.
Okay.
Fear of abandonment. People pleasing.
Okay.
Lacking boundaries or difficulty with setting boundaries.
Okay.
A desire to feel important. Difficulty communicating needs, and then fear of expressing differing viewpoints or feelings. Now, this is just a list I compiled from my research, but I'd imagine there are some other aspects of it. But is there anything on the list that you all would add?
Afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just difficulty trusting and being emotionally available.
Yeah.
And then just feeling frustrated and resentful when people don't want your help or your advice.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one.
That is a big one.
Underlying resentment when they don't want your help, but I think there's also a lot of resentment whenever you help and you help and you help.
Yep.
And they don't come through and help you in the ways that you want to be helped.
Or they don't appreciate it.
Or they don't appreciate it. Ooh. But why are you helping? Are you helping to get their appreciation, to get their validation, to get their care?
See, but then that becomes not about help, but about their own inner child wounds. Because a lot of this is connected to inner child wounds. So what I have kind of realized since Brittany has been talking is that like codependency is obviously an inner child wound. We talked about inner child wounds last session. And so that's definitely an inner child wound.
Absolutely.
It definitely is. I think even with my clients, I try to put a label to it, at least have them understand what it is. But there is a sense of manipulation when it comes to the aspect of like people pleasing, right? So if I don't tread the waters, or if I kind of go along with everybody else, then everything will be copacetic. But like it does not often work that way, right? And then you constantly get dismissed, but you've done all this people pleasing in hopes that people will see you. But you end up getting disappointed quite often.
That is self-betrayal.
It is.
And you're frustrated.
Yeah.
And you have resentment.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why people, I think, don't like the term codependency, because a lot of times, manipulation comes with it because your act of helping, your act of generosity because I'm going to point it out to you. You're doing it because you want to control people's perception of you.
Ooh.
Or they're doing it because they have unmet childhood needs.
Yeah, and they're trying to get them met by another person.
The emptiness, they're trying to fill those voids with their friendships, their romantic relationships, or just anybody that they meet. Because a lot of who we are as adults come from the relationships that we have in infancy with our parents, the psychosocial development and the ability to trust yourself in this world. Sometimes that is not nurtured and cultivated in childhood. So we do grow up being codependent.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, especially if 1 + 1 is 2, right? And so if it's if your thought process is sort of black and white, then you will say, if I do this thing, this will be the result of.
Is that all or nothing thinking?
Huh?
Is that all or nothing thinking or no?
Yes, that maybe, and then black and white thinking.
Okay, maybe black and white.
Because like I said, if I do this, I will get the result. But it doesn't always. It's not going to always be.
But they know the equation doesn't work. It very rarely works.
No. I don't think people know that at first.
I don't think that they're doing
it. You're not evaluating. You're not actually kind of taking inventory of what you're doing and if it's working for you or not.
So that goes back to honoring self.
Honoring self, but I feel like a lot of people have to learn that. Like we learn to honor ourselves much later in life.
Yeah.
It's the self-awareness that they don't really teach us as children. The importance of self-awareness or how to get your needs met.
They do teach us, but when we do learn how to get our needs met, it's typically not the healthiest way. The dysfunctional family dynamics plays a huge role in codependency and how we show up. I was just thinking about like households where self-sacrifice is the norm.
Oh yeah.
That's not something that like nobody's telling you that this is self-sacrifice, but if you think about the parentified child, whether that's a girl or a boy who has to like stay at home with their siblings because their parents have to work or their parents are going out, and so this particular sibling can't hang out with their friends, that is the ultimate self-sacrifice. They're learning to meet other people's needs while denying their own. Because at 13, your needs are to hang out with your friends. We learn that in childhood to deny our own needs.
Yes, we learn how to survive. So again, it makes sense. So we can validate where this came from and the need that it met, the purpose that it served in childhood.
Or where we learned it from. But then,
But it did serve a purpose because you literally had to do that or you probably would get in trouble or you didn't have any freedom at all.
But then you learn that this is how maybe you keep people around or that this is your purpose or your role in life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So with that, maybe that segues into how does codependency impact a person's emotional or mental health?
I think that when you deny your own needs, then you don't have a healthy mindset or healthy well-being because there's no honoring yourself, your emotions. You don't express anything. You're in relationships, you're in places, but you're just existing. You're not talking about like what's important to you. You're kind of just going with the flow. What's important to you? I like what you like.
Right.
I don't know what I like.
Right. And I'm glad you make a really, really good point because even with those type of conversations that I've had with clients, we get to a point of me asking, so how deep are these relationships really?
Yeah.
If you just going along with it, no questions are being asked, your needs aren't being met, then how deep is it really? And not even just in a romantic sense, but like any type of relationship.
And friendships.
Right.
And I have clients who continue to suppress their own needs by saying, you know what? I don't feel like having that conversation with them. So I'm just going to not have a conversation. I just move along to the next group of friends because I've heard people say like they feel like
complete cutoff.
But their reason for doing a complete cutoff is not like, I can't say that I blame them because they're saying like in every friendship group, I'm the one who's having to bring up these conversations.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing that no more. So then I guess I should ask them, okay, well, maybe in every friendship group, are you leading with codependency?
Well, in that example, are they, because how that translated to me was they've expressed to their friends what they needed and it's not being met.
But that means that you're expressing to them that what you were doing is not working anymore. So that means that you're approaching each friendship group being a person who is codependent. So maybe
or not authentic.
Or not authentic. So once you go back and try to change it, they're like caught off guard.
Yeah, now you're changing the game. They didn't sign up for this.
Yes.
They didn't know this when they met you.
Exactly. That's why we said last week, be who you are consistently.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to go back and say, hey, I'm really not that person.
Right.
But I get it. It's not always easy for people because people do what they think they need to do to make friends, to be in relationships. And that really irks my nerves.
But we think that that's safe. And I tell my clients all the time when we do things like this to protect ourselves, this is nothing more than a false sense of safety.
It's
Yes.
desperation
It does not
to me,
actually
though.
protect you
But
in the
is it not
end.
desperation?
It's
It is,
desperation and it's limiting.
But we have this underlying, I think, drive all of us to protect ourselves and to feel safe at all times. And so you're trying to create this sense of safety.
That ain't safety at all.
That's what I'm saying. But they think it
They
is.
think
I think it's
then
more
I'll have
so of
people
a
around me
craving
and-
to not be lonely, to be around people. I don't think
That's
don't
It's
safety.
all of it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's safety.
But
Is it false? Yes, but that's what they believe it is until they're in the therapy room like, run that back. Are you
Yes.
sure?
No, I don't actually feel safe with them because they don't really know me
Yeah.
and they don't really hear me.
Right.
well, when you point out to them that it's actually harm that you are doing, you're causing pain to yourself and to your friends by not being who you are.
Right. Exactly. And I tell my clients all the time, I understand your feelings are certainly valid, but you kind of can't be mad at people adjusting to the system you created.
Exactly.
Right? Like they've of course they're gonna call you when they need something. You've been available every single time.
And this is how codependency is created. And then
Correct.
again, we get mad when you want to change the game.
Right.
You can't out of nowhere expect people. We've been like this for 5 years.
But
I've
you
been
did
drinking,
say-
I've been smoking, I've been like this, and you want me to just
People deserve to grow
they do,
and
but
change as they become self-aware.
which happens, which also we see this a lot in the therapy room as well. So I see this a
With
lot come up
couples.
whenever with couples, but also even with when I worked with teens a lot and they were coming out. So parents knew their child as one way
Oh yeah.
their whole life.
Yeah.
And so
That's
with
a
that,
big
we
one.
do talk about parents and the kiddo giving parents some time to transition. Not that we're going to tolerate them being mean or hateful or anything like that. And also, they had one version of you that they knew all of this time. You might have to give them some time to transition your pronouns and how you want to be addressed and things like that. It's not going to happen overnight.
That's a big
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah. Now, if we can go to the next one, like, how do you all think cultural and societal norms influence the perceptions of codependency?
I think that it's celebrated. I think that it's encouraged, especially
The self-sacrifice for women
yeah.
is definitely
That's
like
what instantly came to mind.
yeah, because
But religion says the same thing.
Yeah.
Go
what,
ahead.
what does religion say?
Be kind. Consider people first. Be care. Like this is the first priority.
But
being
religion say
kind.
treat people how you want to be treated.
Yes, this too. But a lot of people from church say that I need to be a good person.
Okay. The self-sacrifice piece though, I hear you. Being a good person. Let's just come back to being a good person because I actually dislike people who get hung up on I just want to be a good person because I'm always telling my clients, but you can't be good people. You can't be a good person to somebody and then be a bad person to yourself. I don't even like using good and bad, but it's unhealthy. You cannot be a good person at the expense of harming yourself. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense.
I feel like that's another reason why using the term codependency has been helpful for me in my settings because you manipulating people or you trying to be nice to them in order to get them to like you or you knowing that they don't like you or that they don't want a relationship, but you're like, well, if I just try hard enough or if I just do this and clean for him and do this, then I might get him to change his mind. That's manipulate. That's not kind.
No.
You're trying to be a good person. You're not.
Right.
So really the question, right. But you end up denying your own needs when you do that. You said, how does culture play a role in this?
But I do want to ask you for the example that you just brought up about like I just want to be a good person, like what is that in context of?
People just say that a lot in therapy that I just want to be a good person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who defines what a good person is? Because if you're letting other people tell you that a good person is you not having boundaries, you kind of not expressing that they hurt your feelings, then girl, I don't want you to be a good person because that's not being a good person. That's you almost driving yourself insane.
But it makes me wonder, like, do they not?
You're gaslighting yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you not think
one.
that you're a good person now?
So when you are the person that when you will put yourself in the seat to be the giver, people get used to you being the giver. So when you change that, you're being mean. And being mean obviously means I'm not a good person.
Mm.
So that's
Okay.
just one thing that I see people struggle with all the time. And I've had clients who put forth boundaries, and now they don't have the friends that they used to have or the relationships they used to have because they set boundaries.
Yeah, and we always have to prepare clients for like it's gonna change.
It will change.
But culturally, in a lot of cultures, you don't really get to have boundaries. I hear some people, when you first mention boundaries, they're like, what?
Yeah.
What's that?
Because what does that mean?
We don't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the question. Like, how do cultural aspects play a part
in codependency?
Yeah.
I think for us as Black people, I think even the gender roles and just like looking at people based off what they should be doing based off gender. But what Uncle Luke made a video the other day talking about what women should, what he said,
I didn't watch it.
He was talking about women.
That's why I refused.
It was similar to Trick Daddy's video.
No, I just don't understand. Leave us alone.
The nerve of Uncle Luke, though. The nerve.
Because, like, what are you... Why are you bothering us?
But he was saying what women should be doing, cooking and cleaning to get a man.
In 2024.
And he was wrong because he also said that you should use a dish, and clearly he does not actually know how to care for the vagina, even though he's probably had plenty, but he was loud and wrong.
But his hygiene in his mouth was also off. So
girl, one man on TikTok said that it is not natural for a woman to have her period every month. So honestly, I'm not listening to none of y'all.
But culturally, this is what happened in our community. We have to hear men talk about what we should be doing as women.
Oh, that's a big one. That one came up the other day.
Yeah, that is.
Where did it come up at?
In the session, and I had a young woman client, and she said, I feel almost traumatized, but I don't want to think I'm tripping. But I had a conversation with a man, and he told me that women are off and that I'm off, and I'm not. This is what I should be doing as a woman, and this is what femininity is, and all these things.
I've had men try to tell me what femininity was.
That is the wildest shit to me.
So that makes
how?
Because so then I never thought about it in this way, but now I'm thinking we have codependency on systems. I'm just now thinking about that.
Yeah. Codependency on tradition.
Yes.
Yes.
Dang, I never thought.
So what is our role?
Critical thinkers.
Upholding this system.
Oof, that's a whole nother.
So if you're saying that codependency is based off systems, what are you saying?
No, I was saying like with these stereotypical gender roles. I'm wondering if we are codependent on the system in place, right? So like, if I believe that my wife should be this, then I don't have to question nothing else.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So then it comes back to like what is our responsibility as women to dismantle this system? So why would we continue to try to force ourselves in relationships where people want us to be in the kitchen, have the 9 to 5, do all these things? That is the ultimate self-sacrifice.
It is.
And so we're doing that to keep a relationship that makes us codependent on what? Relationships?
Right.
I'm confused.
Or the relationships or the man.
Okay. Because there's nothing wrong with having a relationship.
Right.
But it does not need to be you betraying yourself to have that relationship.
That plus... I don't think people, like, if people want to be traditional and they have...
Nobody is traditional today.
Right. But let's say that they are and people want gender roles. Just view your partner as a person.
You can have roles.
That's what I mean. Like, I think, but from how it's like Uncle Luke, you're not viewing the women as a person.
No.
It's just an object to participate in the system that you think they should be participating in.
The patriarch system.
Correct. Yeah.
Relationships... When it comes to gender roles, most healthy relationships probably dismantle gender roles. And if people are in therapy, you can best believe the therapist is teaching them to assign roles based off strengths. Because not everything should be based off gender. Because there are some men who are great homemakers and they cook and they put the kids' lunches together. And there are some women who can tend to the damn grass outside.
Right.
It got to be based off what people are good at.
Exactly.
That's the only way it can be healthy and sustainable.
Right.
Not all women can cook.
Correct. And not all men can lead. Like, some women are better with the finances. Like you said, like, where could we use our strengths to make this a team? To just simply comply with something that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would I do that?
I don't know.
Why would I do that?
People aren't critical thinkers.
No, because
People aren't critical thinkers. You
no.
should have said that
And all
louder.
sense ain't common. Say it again.
Because we're not critical thinkers.
They.
I didn't want to say
I is.
we all can do better at critically thinking and challenging things and actually seeing what works for us and what doesn't. We
What
don't
works
question
for
things
us.
enough.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. What works for your household.
Yes.
Right.
And when you find it, you don't have to tell nobody about it.
Right.
Mhm.
It's too many people saying, oh, that wouldn't happen in my house. That wouldn't happen in my house.
I don't care.
It don't work the
Okay.
same. It's not a
That's
one size
fine.
fits all, though.
Exactly.
It's not a
Exactly.
one size fits all.
And because honestly, even with people, the way that they talk on social media, half the time they're not really living like that. And most of the time their households aren't designed that way. Like people literally are doing what works best.
The people who are trying to have healthy and sustainable relationships, I think they are doing what's best for them.
No, absolutely.
Okay. We were talking about codependency, but somehow we got on
went off a little
relationships.
bit.
We did. Yeah, it's okay. Well, now that we're on the conversation of relationships, just in general, like how do you all think communication plays a role in codependency or maybe dismantling codependency? Because what we're talking about is when a person is codependent, their needs are being neglected.
Okay.
Right? So like how do you help clients communicate their need after it's both established that there's some codependency there? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So what comes up for me immediately is the division of household labor and the need to communicate around that, because a codependent household would mean one person is doing all the chores and they taking blame if the chores are not completed. Maybe they didn't have time to complete the chores. They did not ask for help. They just tried to do everything themselves and they couldn't get it done. Now the house is not running functionally because one person was doing all the work. That is a codependent relationship. In order to change that into an interdependent relationship, you're going to have a shared household labor with you and your partner and your children, so that everybody kind of have a role in maintaining the house and how it functions. Because one person simply cannot
do
that.
Right.
Day-to-day operations have to be tended to in marriages and families. And everybody has a role to play in managing the family and managing the house.
I think it's ironic that people could easily get that in a work setting, right? Like people could
that's
easily
my favorite thing to bring up.
Comply with,
yes,
like, this is so-and-so's role. This is so-and-so's role.
Girl.
How do we come together to make this better for the company? But like,
or they're out today, so you need to fill in here,
Right.
or you need to learn this other skill because
that's my
so-and-so
favorite
is in
thing
here.
to bring up in therapy, because when people start telling me what they can't do at home, why they don't have the time to do it, I start becoming very curious about your job. And the number of meetings you have in a week, and the number of emails you answer, and how you have to pivot at work when things go wrong. And they tell me that they're so good at this. Okay, now take that same method and apply it to your house.
why do people separate it? You would think that would sort of, is it codependency? Is that what it is?
No, I was just gonna say you want to keep your job. You intentionally think about how much you value your job and how much you value that check. Are you giving your relationship that same amount of energy and effort?
Or they say, this is what my dad did, and this is all he had to do.
Which again, because they might very well care about their partner and care about their relationship.
Right.
But again, you're not critically thinking to see what actually works and what doesn't work. You're just repeating something instead of being intentional about how you're living your life and navigating your relationships.
The reason why repeating things don't work is because this is not the same family. These are not the same needs.
Or times.
Not the same times.
Yeah.
There are some things that can be repeated, but not everything can be repeated.
Right.
It just cannot.
And it makes it, I always encourage people, like, just take a moment to, like you said, critically think. Have you asked yourself, does this even apply to how I'm trying to live my life?
We don't even think if it logistically works. We will stick with a routine. We will stick with tradition because that's the way that it's always been done. And we won't actually say, hey, this would be so much easier if he just went to go pick them up from school and I stayed and I did this and I did that. We're not even thinking about the logistics and the actual logic and decision making. We're just doing shit because that's the way it's supposed to be done.
So it sounds like from all of this ranting that we just did about relationships that we are codependent on tradition.
Yeah.
Okay. That did not come up for me before this conversation. But we are codependent on tradition.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. So did we talk about how does communication?
I was talking about, for me, when working with couples, how communication can help codependency or just dismantle it.
Right.
Was just communicating about something such as household chores, because I made a note about like what is a codependent relationship versus an interdependent relationship.
Ooh.
And so that one was the biggest for me, because that is the one that one person sometimes takes on every single responsibility of a chore in the house. I'm like, girl, sit down. You cannot do all of this.
Right.
Even if you don't work.
Right.
And you just stay with the kids all day, it's still impossible.
Right.
But there's a new thing going on with women who are working from home while working with their children at the house with them. And baby, I don't like that for y'all.
No.
Oh, that's a thing for a lot of my clients.
Wow. I mean, unless you love it.
Unless you love it. But it just seems to be tiring people out. I think this is the new, I don't know what this is. Working from home, to me as a therapist, it just doesn't always seem the healthiest option for some of my clients.
I mean, I could see that. But dang, I didn't know people were working from home.
Yes, they are.
And they're homeschooling?
No, working from home, but also the kids are not going to daycare or babysitters.
Oh, no.
Yes, there are women who are doing both.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few clients who do that.
Wow. Okay.
I'm constantly encouraging and asking questions to say, hey, can we make a plan so that maybe some childcare can be involved, because you're not getting a break.
No.
At all. That's codependency.
It just makes me wonder, like, as the person's partner, you see your partner doing all of this and there's not a thought in you to say, hey, babe, you need some help?
He is at work.
Yeah, no, but like...
He works outside the home.
Also, again, I think we've talked about this before. If you continuously show people that you are Superwoman,
okay.
why would they think any different?
Yeah.
Like, yes, you would want somebody that is a little bit more vigilant about you, because be vigilant
about yourself. Take the cape off, sis. Take the cape off.
Right.
But also, like, yeah, you got to communicate. That's a part of communicating too.
Yeah.
And when you said communication, I immediately thought about language, which is the way partners or people are talking to one another. And how they're talking to themselves about the relationship. Because a lot of times automatic thoughts are, they need me, or I can't do this because they're going to feel like this when I do this. You're doing a lot of guessing. This is a lot of fortune telling. You don't know.
Yeah.
Why are you making decisions for you doing a lot of brain work that you ain't got to do, because you don't even know if it's right.
Right. It is fortune telling. That's the thinking trap.
No, I know. I'm saying, I was just going to say, like, y'all are using a bunch of cognitive distortion terms in here. I like it.
Because we therapists for sure. What was my next question? So with all of this in mind, unless you wanted to bring, because you mentioned, you said interdependent?
Yes.
Okay, I would love to know what you got with that.
Well, another big one is a codependent relationship is when somebody doesn't have any hobbies, interests. They don't know what they like, no foundation of self. And so they just do whatever their partners like. They like what their partners like. They like the same pizza their partners like, the same movies and TV shows and activities. That is a thing for some people, and not just women, men too. An interdependent relationship is obviously each person maintains separate hobbies while also having shared interests.
Right.
This is so important with me and my premarital clients, because if you don't find that balance here, you will smother the hell out of each other.
And we'll play small.
Not even playing small.
One person will.
You're gonna burn your partner out.
Oh, yes.
You're going to burn them out.
Why people think that that's the epitome of a good relationship, that we have every single thing in common and we do everything together, and this somehow means that we're really in love?
For me, I don't think that's what it is. I think they truly don't have a foundation of self. Who am I?
I think there's probably a little bit of both, because I've definitely seen the other be true.
Lately, I've been getting a lot of young women, 22, 20 years old, coming in to see me as their therapist. And I am amazed at how at this age, they don't have a foundation of self, because they just had college boyfriends. They graduated college.
You said 22?
Yeah.
That's the perfect age.
But you typically have hobbies at that age and friends.
Well, if you're complying with what you think is expected of you as a woman, right? Like unfortunately.
I wasn't that defined at 22.
I mean, I wasn't either.
I'm not saying you had somewhat of a foundation of self. You had hobbies. You had interests. You weren't at the same college as your boyfriend.
If you're not male-centered. I don't know what's happening, guys, but
she said,
an
"Watch your
APB?
tone."
Oh,
I'm just telling you that you weren't as bad as you're making yourself seem. I was there with you in college.
I didn't say I was bad. I just said I wasn't like,
she has some
oh,
flexibility.
I know all that I am. And
Not all that you
how to
are,
hang
T,
on
but
to
you had
these.
hobbies and interests that outside of your boyfriend. You did. You wasn't even on the same campus as him. There's nothing wrong with the young ladies kind of being in this space. I didn't say anything was wrong with it. I said I was just amazed that they had no foundation of self. So when they come into me all heartbroken, I'm like, well, baby, welcome home. So now this is a beautiful opportunity for you to explore what you like, who you are. It is important for everybody to have a sense of self before you start dating.
It really is.
Where does that start? Where are people taught foundation of self? Come
Nowhere.
here. This is what it looks like.
No, we're grind culture. Once you're out of college, what are you supposed to do immediately after? Get a job. Like,
it's help
at what
people
point,
go to school, be nice, get a job. It's not
follow the law.
find who you are. Critically think about what works for you and what doesn't. What do you like and not like? Nobody.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're all going to be codependent then.
Yeah, which is why it's important to, validate that it makes sense that we all turned out this way. Let's talk about why it's not working.
Right.
Of course it makes sense. I'm just saying I was amazed and just caught off guard by so many young women coming to see me and just graduating college, and they just like, this man has been doing this and this, and I'm just so upset. And then I'm like, they have no interest in nothing. They don't know what they like. They just know they had a boyfriend and that they were going to be married after college, and they're heartbroken. And somehow they found themselves on my couch. And I tend to not have that age, but Takesha helped me see that this is beautiful.
It is.
Lean into it. Work with them, because I was going to refer them out. But I'm like,
it's such a growth age.
It's
one of my discovery age. Yeah. It's such a beautiful age.
But these women are also educated. They're engineers and things like that as well. These are career women. They just also thought that they would be married, but when they graduated college. But then they found themselves like saying like, but I like my career. And the person was like, but they didn't want you to have this career. So I'm like, oh, so those men still exist. Even Gen Z men are still kind of asking women to shrink themselves. Because why would an engineer say, I'm going to not be an engineer and just stay at home? I just graduated college.
Why would I let you pick my career for me at all? Why?
I'm so confused.
What is that?
You'd be surprised.
That's wild. I mean, I'm not, because...
Who are you and how are you raised to make you think that you got that type of say in my life?
I will go on another tangent about that, but like that's really frustrating.
I'm sorry, I've been hearing some wild stuff lately.
It's so frustrating for me.
It's the reality of some of the clients that I'm seeing.
I know, and it's like it's so bothersome for me when people willfully limit their experiences in this life.
Limit their experiences in this life.
Yes, you're choosing to not only limit yourself, but you want to limit your partner. You want people to be small. Like, why can't we just explore the world? Like we talked about in one of our sessions, autonomy. People don't want their partner to have autonomy.
Let's talk about the fear that comes with codependency, because that's what that just said to me. You're afraid. Either you're afraid of loss of power, you're afraid of their independence, and that's part of codependency. Is I kind of need you to need me, or I need you to kind of stay in this situation.
And ego plays a part of that, and codependency on the system, the traditions.
And fear of abandonment.
And I think you said it, like, this is how I was raised. My mom stayed at home, so this is how I want to be. But also, like, you can't manipulate a person. If you know this person is ambitious, you can't try to make them fit into...
I think we've seen that on a larger scale with women, too. Because I feel like Jada was kind of made to do that a little bit. Just a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Just a little bit. I love Will, though.
Yeah, no, I agree to that. But
is that codependency?
I think it can develop into that.
He was constantly also trying to do everything.
Both of them were codependent.
Yes. When I'm constantly trying to help, I'm offering help even when it's not asked for. I think that you can't independently function without me. You can't succeed, or you can't get to where you want to go or be happy unless I give you all these things, even though no one's actually asking for.
And that's another side of codependency where two people really do care a lot about each other.
They
For
do.
sure.
Because that's
I
a
see it
side
all
of
the
codependency.
time.
Because those two
They're
are
beautiful.
two people who I do believe care a lot about each other.
Absolutely. On top
I
of
see this come up in sessions,
Will
yeah.
had like I don't necessarily want to say superficial, but he romanticized like what he wanted his family to look like.
As
right?
based off what? His unmet needs in childhood.
Absolutely, yes. So then there's the manipulation in like, this is what I want. She didn't necessarily want that, but she loved him. So like, if I love my partner so much, I will allow this very thing to happen. So I'm going to simply comply. But then years later, you end up being like, damn, here's my career. It's not this, it's not that. But unfortunately, you chose that.
But through love and codependency, you tried to control to meet your unmet childhood needs and to create this life, avoid this abandonment, create this false sense of safety in, because what I needed would have kept me safe, would have made me feel full
as a child.
So I can now create it and mold it and manipulate it to be what I need it to be. And that's not how relationships and humans work.
It's not. But I do think that he has learned from that. It's based off the ending of the book. But his book was the perfect example of, to me, how two people care so much about each other. This is just a codependent gumbo here.
Yeah, because they both had childhood wounds.
Yeah.
And I think people don't call that codependent. Like they wouldn't like using that word for that relationship, just because it is two successful people who are able to take care of themselves, and they both actually do genuinely love each other.
They do. And this is we love Jada and Will as we know them to be.
Absolutely.
This is definitely not any jabs at them, just kind of using examples of codependency.
Yeah. What do we think are some good steps to help clients that we know are struggling to maneuver through their codependency? What are some strategies, interventions, or whatever the case is to help those particular clients overcome those tendencies?
First off, identify what your needs are.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And then work toward addressing them yourself and or communicating them with your support group, your community, your partner.
Yes.
It's a good first step.
Yeah.
I would say do not move out of desperation for any relationship or friendship.
Yeah.
It just doesn't serve you in the end. That is a short-term sacrifice. That's it. Like, it's a short-term it's short-term gratification, but the self-sacrifice of that is not worth it.
Right.
Because then you won't be able to sustain those relationships at all. So just, be who you are in these spaces and trust that people will like you for you.
Right.
Because I think sometimes people do like you for you. You just don't know because you're scared to be yourself because you're scared of the rejection.
Right.
Yeah, you're not even giving them opportunity
Facts.
to love you in a healthy way.
So you need to value yourself and not seek approval from others.
Amen.
A part of that would be avoiding needy giving.
Yes.
Start checking yourself for how you're giving and how you're offering help. One, wait for people to ask you for help. And also, if it's needy giving because you want this person to spend more time with you, or you want them to like you, if there's some underlying motive, then you might need to just be more intentional about that or pull back on that a little bit until you can genuinely give and expect nothing in return.
What has been y'all's kind of personal, I guess, relationship with codependency?
Ooh, as the oldest daughter.
I was definitely thinking about older girls when I was reading.
Let me see. Let me look at this list again. Definitely there's been some issues with communicating needs.
Okay.
And probably some aspect of people pleasing. Not to the fullest extent, but I think all of it came full circle when I decided, like, okay, what do I want and what do I want my life to look like? And I know I say it all the time, like, I'm really big on autonomy. And like, it was
probably
not autonomous. Yeah, probably. It's not autonomous for me to be a people pleaser or to, what was the other thing that I said? Difficulty setting my boundaries.
Yeah.
And a big part of what opened the door for me was like, setting boundaries with my family. Love them to death, but it's like, okay, I can't take this in.
Right.
Love y'all though. Hope it works out, because what the hell am I gonna do in Texas? I can't do nothing.
So you recognize what was within your control. It sounded like with your family. Okay.
And D&D heavy.
Oh,
do not disturb.
I don't think I learned mine until after the fact. And it was in a romantic relationship. Situationship. So where I didn't even realize in real time, again, because I'm a helper. So anytime I was talking to this person, they would just say, well, I have this going on, or I'm trying to figure out this. And I didn't realize that I was immediately like, okay, what do you need for that?
Yep.
How can I help you with that? Oh, I have this kind of resource, or I have this, or I have that. And for me, it was just helping at the time. I didn't realize until after the fact that that was kind of a one-sided situation, which codependent.
Yeah.
Well, people actually think, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I can say I somewhat disagree. But I saw some people talking, and with some actors. I think BC has this thing where men are kind of sitting around talking about mental health and stuff. And I love the conversations they were having, but some of them were saying like, the people you love should not have to ask you for help. You should just step in and help them.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, no, people have to practice asking for help as well, because if not, they can lead to compulsively trying to fix people's problems.
Yes, for sure.
I think there has to be a balance.
I was about to say, I can see it to where both are necessary, but I definitely think we all need to practice being able to ask for help. Because people aren't going to always be available to see it. Or to fix it if you just don't tell them.
Right. Or they're stepping in to fix every single thing, which is making them so codependent.
Yeah.
And now when you need help, you don't ask for it. It's almost you feel like you're entitled to the help from people.
Oh, yeah. That's another side of codependency is that now people feel entitled to your help.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely probably my personal relationship with codependency definitely stems back with my family and just trying to fix all of their problems, especially graduating high school and moving off to college, just jumping in. Like I literally took myself from one school to another school to move closer to my family to just fix their lives. Craziest shit I ever did in my life.
Because did it help?
Right.
Girl drove me. But no, that's like just trying to fix people's problems and just be there for them. And then Takesha said, girl, them people gonna have them problems whether you there or not. Yeah. Them people be in my family and I love y'all, but she was right.
Yeah.
No, because I had to learn that for myself. It's like no matter, for me and family members, it's like no matter what we do. I've seen it in friends, I've seen it in family, I've seen it in clients. We all give. We're givers. So you keep giving, and some people are just takers and they take. And then with myself, with friends, with clients, 2 months later, we check back in again. Guess where those people are?
In the same place.
Still in the same place, doing the same shit.
Yeah. I can.
And you was over here stressed out for a month and two.
Right. And they be like, yeah, girl, still talking to him.
And you could just decide to not be stressed.
Right.
Give it up. And they still gonna be right there 2 months later. Yeah. Same outcome. Same outcome.
I've been losing friends and finding peace.
I definitely relate to the giver part, especially in old not even relationships, situationships.
These people ain't had no relationships, child. Just situationships.
We're growing. You know, we've grown.
I am a 32-year-old woman.
You 32?
Fuck you.
Oh, little baby.
I'm a grown adult woman. What the fuck did I say? Oh, yes. I am also a giver and have given unsolicited advice. And it often backfires. Or I think I don't immediately jump to problem solving, but like if a person is consistently complaining about something, my initial is like, okay, well, you've been talking about this for a while. What are some steps that we can take? But like if I'm asking that question and then you still talking about your problem,
because that means they need to vent. They don't need solutions right now.
So then I know to shut the fuck up and not ask no more. You must like this.
Or
but when we get that automatic thing inside, because there was probably a point for you, because I know there was for me, of where it's almost frustrating again, like you said before, when they don't want your help or when they don't want to find a solution, and you're sitting there like, but it could be so simple. Like I know what to do. We can just do this or we can do that.
I told you.
And so whenever you get that urge and you're like, you just want to do something so bad to help, that's a sign to you that you might be having like a little codependent moment, because
Or you
if
just
they
tired
just
of
want to
talking about
vent, you
shit.
can really just
That-
chill. Like,
That
Or you
plus
get off
like
the phone.
that, and then I'm finding myself frustrated about your situation.
that's what I'm
Like,
saying.
Yeah, nah.
think
It
I-
should get to the point where we can just relax and be like, damn.
That's crazy.
You know?
Good luck though, because I'm getting played too. So good luck.
Okay. So I hope you guys took something from this episode that could take away from maybe you being codependent, or if you recognize that somebody in your life is codependent and you are and you're being a taker, stop being a taker.
Stop being a taker.
Okay. But I want y'all to think about something you can do this week to maybe practice in a form of self-care.
Okay.
And it can't be getting your nails done
Why?
or going to the gym.
Okay. You're
Unless you
challenging-
don't always do those things.
You're challenging people to go to do different things.
I'm challenging to do something that they haven't done for self-care. Maybe
a
journal
while.
or go
Ooh, try
outside.
something new,
Touch
take
some
self-care.
grass.
Touch some grass.
Go to a park. Herman Park has a really cute area. Pedal boating, hella cheap. They also have the little train ride. That's fun.
Just doing something outside,
Mhm.
something out of the norm. We need to find new ways to care for ourselves, because I am
agree.
sick of y'all talking about the gym on social media as everything is the one all be all. Do I love the gym? Yes.
That's y'all.
But you
That's
gotta
y'all thing.
diversify your self-care.
Yes.
Because what we've learned is with teens, and even when COVID happened, is if you only got one mode of self-care, like teens, if they got a phone and it's taken away, then they're like, I don't have any
Freaking out.
self-care.
We need a tool bag full of things.
We do.
Yeah.
I always explain it to my people as like a piece of pie. If you only have one piece of pie when it's gone, you ain't got no more pie left.
got no more
if
pie.
you got like 20 pieces of pie, like even when you don't have one, you still good. You got 19.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Period.
She said that to her kiddos.
Yes.
Okay, go love yourself.
Go love yourself.
Go love yourself.